Good day, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you on April 13th, 2026 for a reason to resist from the new Zionist colony known as Cyprus. I'm at the Larnaca International Airport, just arrived here from Beirut, late last night actually, and am on my way to Athens, taking a flight in a couple of hours' time. It may be possible for you to read the departure destinations up on the board behind me. If so, you'll see that there are no less than 5 flights from Larnaca to Tel Aviv departing today. This is pretty standard in my experience, and there's a similar number of arrivals. I have extensively covered the fact that there is an increasing number of Israelis living here, whether temporarily or permanently, and quite a few are doing business across the island, more and more so as a matter of fact, and in some cases building residential complexes that are primarily, if not exclusively, intended for persons of Jewish origin. Now, I can testify to the fact that this has become a Zionist colony, in part because I myself was subjected to a police interrogation at this airport about 6 months ago in October. I did a follow-up report on an initial report that I had done about the massive influx of Israelis into the island during that trip. And as part of that report, I briefly attempted to film outside a complex known as the Jewish Museum, which sits behind some very high walls. And there's security, private security, police officers there. I was on a public street. I had gone there to film part of my report simply because, based on all the information I had, it was a place where Israelis tended to hang out. So what happened when I came to the airport after doing that report, I was told that I had to be detained while the police from the Larnaca Criminal Division came to the airport to interrogate me. They wanted to know what I was up to, and I told them what I was up to. I showed them my press card and explained that I was covering the Israeli influx into the island and that I was a lawyer, and eventually they let me go. They didn't press any charges or threaten to press any charges, but as a result of the interrogation, I missed my flight and they refused to reimburse me for the new ticket that I had to purchase. So yeah, I know a thing or two about how Zionist this island has become. In any case, that's not the main subject of my report today. What I'm going to show you in the latter half of this report is my final report from Lebanon as part of my most recent trip. This particular episode of my reporting from Lebanon will be from the southern coastal city of Saida, where on April 8th, as part of a massive wave of massacres and carnage across Lebanon, the Zionist aggressors destroyed a mosque. It was actually the second time in the history of that mosque that it had been destroyed by Israel's genocide forces. And in the course of destroying the mosque, they killed the imam, a well-known and well-loved religious figure in South Lebanon, and a number of civilians, including women who were there either in order to worship or because they were staying at a refugee facility that was immediately adjacent to the mosque, and they were going there to use the showering facilities because there were so many people trying to use the showers at the adjacent refugee facility. These women were staying in that facility because they had been displaced by Israel's genocidal rampage across southern Lebanon. So that's what the subject of my last report of Lebanon will be about. You'll see that I'm going to be speaking in that report to Laith Marouf, the executive director of Free Palestine TV, who, along with his colleague Hadi Hotate, accompanied me into South Lebanon a couple of days ago. Now, before I show it to you, I want to talk about the most recent developments in this criminal war of aggression on Iran. As you'll all know, the negotiations appear to have failed. They certainly are sputtering if they haven't been terminated altogether. and Donald Trump has announced a blockade. The blockade, we are told by CENTCOM, Central Command of the U.S. military, will not apply to ships, to the extent there are any, transiting through the Strait of Hormuz if those ships are not going to an Iranian port or coming from an Iranian port. The blockade is intended to put a stop to traffic in and out of Iranian ports. Now, I have quite a few things to say about this blockade. The first thing I have to say about it is just before the announcement of this blockade and the J.D. Vance announcement that the negotiations had failed in Islamabad, the U.S. military claimed, or sources within the U.S. military claimed, that 3 U.S. warships had managed to enter the Strait of Hormuz without incident, go into the Persian Gulf, and then turn around and re-exit the Persian Gulf, again without incident. And the Iranians contested this, and now they have actually published video footage which shows an Iranian speedboat apparently approaching one of these warships at high velocity. And by the way, I haven't been able to verify that that is what it purports to be, that video, but whoever, if it is real, and if that was a U.S. warship that speedboat was approaching, I have to say that the people on that speedboat, the military personnel, have extraordinary courage. And apparently they survived the incident. There was no firing. But in any case, they say, the Iranians, that these vessels were warned to turn back, that their entry into the strait would be deemed a ceasefire violation, and that they then did, in fact, flee the area. So I don't know who's telling the truth. I have I'm inclined to believe the Iranians. I think overall they've proven themselves to be much more credible than the Trump regime. And whether or not it's true, I leave it to you to decide, but I will say this: if in fact the U.S. warships are able to enter the Strait of Hormuz and travel through it without being attacked by the Iranian military, why do they need to impose a blockade on Iran? Why don't they just send warships into the Strait of Hormuz and tell all oil tankers and other commercial vessels that wish to transit through the strait that the U.S. warships are there to provide them protection? The only reason why, it seems to me, Donald Trump would have to resort to a blockade is because the U.S. military is unable to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. It seems to me that's quite obvious, which suggests that this whole fiasco, this claim that U.S. warships managed to go through the Strait of Hormuz without cooperating with the Iranian military, is yet another bit of fake news emanating from the White House. Now, the other thing I want to say, or one of the other things I want to say about this blockade is, as anybody with a basic understanding of global oil markets will tell you, the price of oil globally is determined by global, I repeat, global supply and demand. So if you remove a significant chunk of oil or gas from the supply, the global supply of oil or gas, and demand remains constant or does not decrease in a commensurate way, the price of oil is going to go up. It's inevitable. This is precisely why the Americans have allowed the Iranians to continue shipping oil, and at much higher prices. In fact, it's reportedly at higher volumes than before the war. They've done that not because, of course, they want to help the Iranian economy. They want to fund the Iranian war effort. They've done it reluctantly because they are concerned about the price of oil going even higher. So if in fact this blockade is successful in preventing Iran from delivering its oil to foreign buyers, of course the price of oil is going to go up even more. And eventually Donald Trump is either going to cause or expedite, not just cause, but expedite the collapse of the global economy, or he's going to have to abandon this plan. I predict he's going to do the latter, and it's not going to take very long for him to do that. A third point I want to make about this is this plan or this tactic was available to the Trump regime from the very outset, from the time that the Strait of Hormuz was closed at the very beginning of this second war of aggression on Iran. So why didn't they use it if this was a potentially effective way to force the Iranians to open the Strait of Hormuz? Why didn't they do this 5 or 6 weeks ago? Clearly, they didn't do it precisely because they knew that it was going to exacerbate increases in the price of oil and or fail completely to prevent Iran from delivering its oil to foreign buyers. And yet another point I would like to make about this ridiculous plan is it's very difficult to see how they're going to implement this in practice. So, for example, the closer U.S. warships get to Iranian ports, the more exposed they will be to Iranian missiles and drones. We've seen that the U.S. Navy has positioned its aircraft carriers very far away from Iran in order to minimize the risk that they would be struck. And it's possible, we don't know for sure, that even that didn't, in the end, spare them from damage by Iranian drone and missile attacks. There's good reason to believe that one or two of these aircraft carriers, the Abraham Lincoln and the Gerald Ford, were in fact damaged by Iranian missile and or drone attacks, despite the fact that they were positioned so far from Iranian shores. And quite apart from that, the risk that placing naval vessels in reasonable proximity to Iranian ports will expose them to attack. This is a lot of space to cover. There are a number of Iranian ports, and the U.S. Navy is going to have to commit a lot of naval and aerial assets to the region in order to ensure that these oil tankers, LNG tankers, are not sneaking through their leaky blockade. And on top of all of that, how exactly are they going to enforce this blockade? Are they going to bomb ships that refuse to comply and cause environmental disasters all over the region? Huge leaks of oil into the marine environment. Are they going to do that? I doubt that they're going to want to go down that path. That certainly is going to cause people who live in the region and the governments of countries situated in the region to be very unhappy. A burgeoning ecological disaster caused by yet more U.S. aggression. Or are they going to try to board these vessels? And if they try to board the vessels, the ones that don't stop upon being warned that they will pay a price if they continue their voyage, what happens if there are military personnel aboard those vessels, armed crew who take it upon themselves to defend the vessel from the aggression? So this is just this is a plan that is fraught with difficulty, highly unlikely to succeed, and really smacks of desperation. I predict that it isn't going to last long at all, and that it is yet more pointless bluster, which may, in the near term, the very near term, actually cause significantly more damage to the global economy by driving up oil prices even higher. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about before showing you my final report from Lebanon is the framing of these negotiations in the mainstream media. J.D. Vance emerged from 21 hours of talks with Iranian officials saying that Iran had not agreed to accept, he said they failed to accept U.S. demands. And now I have heard that phrase, that phraseology, repeated over and over and over again by the Western media and by Western politicians. Iran failed to accept U.S. demands. I think we need to flush this framing right down the toilet for a variety of reasons. Number one, before this negotiation took place, Donald Trump said it in writing that he believed that the Iranian 10-point peace plan was a workable basis for negotiation, and it was on the basis of that written representation by the President of the United States that the Iranians agreed to go to Islamabad and have a negotiation. So the 10-point peace plan is not a set of U.S. demands. It's a set of Iranian demands. including reparations for Iran from the United States, the withdrawal of U.S. military forces from the Persian Gulf, the unfreezing of Iranian assets, ironclad guarantees that Israel and the United States will not attack Iran again, and several other demands. So if in fact Donald Trump was being remotely honest when he said that the 10-point peace plan was the basis for negotiation, and if he then proceeded to negotiate on that basis, then what happened was they were talking about a set of Iranian demands, not U.S. demands. Why are we even talking about U.S. demands? And the framing, therefore, should be that the United States has failed to accept the Iranian demands. But by saying that it's the Iranians, you're painting them, whether wittingly or unwittingly, as the culpable party in this failed negotiation. The culpable party is the United States. And not only because Trump represented in writing that the Iranian demands would be the basis of the negotiation, the United States is also the culpable party because the war on Iran is itself a violation of the United Nations Charter. It is, as the Nuremberg trial said, as a war of aggression, the crime of crimes. You cannot commit a worse crime in international law, with the possible exception of genocide, than launching a war of aggression against a sovereign nation. And not only is the war itself illegal because there was no lawful justification for the attack on Iran, but the way that the war has been conducted is illegal in a variety of ways. They've attacked hospitals. Even if the war itself, the attack, the overall aggression against Iran had some legal justification, you have no basis in law for attacking hospitals or conducting your attacks in such a way that the destruction or severe damage to hospitals is inevitable. They've blown up schools. They've blown up sports complexes. They've blown up emergency civilian centers. They've killed medical personnel. They've killed over 250 children. Whereas Israel says that all the civilians that have died in Israel during this war amount to 20 persons. I could go on. And I've reported extensively about the fact that the U.S. and Israel have committed multiple war crimes across the country during the course of this war. So the culpable party here is the United States and Israel. They are the ones who are guilty, and the onus, therefore, should fall upon them to accept Iranian demands. It is absurd for us to be even talking about U.S. demands. In particular, the demand that Iran, which apparently they made in these negotiations, stop enriching uranium. The Iranians have a right to enrich uranium for civilian peaceful purposes. And that's precisely what they've been doing all these years, even now. After we were told for decades that Iran was on the cusp of developing a nuclear weapon, there's no evidence that they have a single nuke. So who are the Americans who actually possess enough nukes to destroy the world many times over, and who countenance Israel's possession of a nuclear arsenal, who tolerate Israel's exclusion from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and its immunity from international atomic energy inspections? Who are they to tell Iran that it can't have a civilian nuclear program? This demand is absurd. There's absolutely no reason why the Iranians should accept it. And it's not just about, having civilian nuclear energy. Their enrichment capacity serves a variety of other purposes. As I've covered on Reason to Resist, when I was in Iran last May, we visited a research reactor in Tehran and spoke with the chief spokesperson of the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency. And we were given a tour of parts of the facility, and it was quite clear. We spoke to experts there, not just the spokesperson, that the enrichment is used also to develop medical technologies and medical isotopes, which are very important for the administration of healthcare in the country. And it has a number of agricultural purposes, the enriched uranium. It has a number of civilian industrial purposes, the enriched uranium. So, again, no basis whatsoever to demand that Iran bring an end to its enrichment program. And frankly, I wouldn't even turn over the highly enriched uranium at this stage if I were the Iranians, because if these lunatics continue their aggression against Iran, it may be necessary in the judgment of leadership of the country, to develop a nuclear arsenal purely as a deterrent. I hope that it never comes to that. I don't want to see anybody gain nuclear weapons, develop a nuclear arsenal. The ones that we have in this world should be dismantled forthwith in their entirety. That should have been done decades ago. But if you're trying to preserve your nation from a genocidal war of extinction, which is precisely what Donald Trump threatened before these negotiations began, you have a responsibility to protect your people. So, in any case, the point here is don't accept that framing. And in your own conversations about what is happening in these negotiations, please try to emphasize the fact that the aggressor, the wrongdoer here, this is the U.S.-Israeli Epstein regime, and it is the Iranians who have a right to be stipulating conditions and demands for the end of this war of aggression. My final comment on these negotiations, and it's following on the point I just made about who should be making demands. I've seen a number of unverified reports about exactly what was discussed. To some extent, some of this information has been verified, but much of it, I've seen no official confirmation from either the US government or the Iranian government that this is the case. But based on what I've been able to glean, the United States didn't concede anything in these 21 hours of negotiations. So for example, it didn't agree even in principle that it owed reparations to Iran. It does as a matter of international law because this is an illegal war of aggression. But it didn't offer to pay anything. This is a key demand, of course. I've seen no indication that the United States talked about the withdrawal of its forces from the region or even a drawdown, a reduction of forces in the region. The United States apparently is not going to unfreeze Iranian assets, any of them. They apparently rejected that idea as well. I saw no indication that the Americans offered to lift sanctions on Iran. I saw no indication that the Americans offered to give ironclad assurances that neither Israel nor the United States would attack Iran again. And it appears that the Americans continue to insist that the Israelis be free to conduct this criminal rampage of destruction of civilians and civilian infrastructure in Lebanon, even though the leadership of Pakistan confirmed that the ceasefire was supposed to apply to all areas of the conflict, including, and he said this explicitly, Lebanon. So what is it exactly that the Americans offered to Iran in these negotiations? I can't say this for sure, but based on everything I've seen, they offered nothing, absolutely nothing, except perhaps some vague assurance that they weren't going to wipe the country off the face of the earth, which they obviously have no right to do. So, and would be a crime of unspeakable proportions. So it seems to me, therefore, that Donald Trump yet again was lying through his teeth when he said that the 10-point peace plan was, he viewed it as a workable basis for the negotiations in Islamabad. In fact, it appears that the U.S. position remains as aggressive and as maximalist and as inflexible as ever. Why, therefore, did he do this? I don't know. Maybe he did it because he wanted to create an opportunity for U.S. naval vessels to enter the Strait of Hormuz without being under fire for the purpose of demining it. CENTCOM has said that this is a priority for the U.S. Navy to demine the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe he did it because he thought that once he had the Iranians at the negotiating table, their true weakness would emerge, and through his extraordinary powers of negotiating persuasion, he would cause the Iranians to finally capitulate. Maybe he did it because he was buying time to move more military assets and munitions into the region, and there are very credible reports that a huge number of military transport planes are flying into West Asia from Northern Europe and particularly the United Kingdom. There are also videos circulating online, images of a massive number of U.S. refueling aircraft lined up at Ben Gurion Airport. So it might have been that. It might have been simply they needed breathing space in order to prepare for an even more violent and criminal second round of this war of aggression. Who knows? I imagine that one day we'll find out exactly why Donald Trump lied when he said that 10-point plan was going to be the basis of negotiation, but have no doubt that he was lying through his teeth. In any case, here's my report for my final report from Lebanon, from the town of Saida on the Mediterranean coast of southern Lebanon. I will be arriving in Greece later today and will continue reporting from Greece in the months ahead. Thank you for all your support. If you find this video to be informative, please like and share it. And please do become a subscriber if you are not already one. We are now almost at 170,000 subscribers after having launched this channel in mid-2024. We greatly appreciate all of your support, all of your engagement, your wonderful comments, especially during this time that I've been in Iran and Lebanon. And peace be unto you all. And until we next speak, this is Dimitri signing off from the new Zionist colony of Cyprus on April 13th, 2026. Just give me 1 second. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Saida in South Lebanon on April 11th, 2026. I'm joined today with our friend and comrade from Free Palestine TV, the executive director, Laith Marouf. We're also joined today by our good friend, also of Free Palestine TV, Hadi Hotait, who's holding the camera but not visible to you. This mosque, or what remains of it, was destroyed on April 8th. 3 days ago as part of the massacres that occurred all across Lebanon, the deadliest day in the country ever since the Civil War. That will give you a sense of the scope of the carnage that occurred on that day. And this was approximately 20 hours after Trump declared that there had been a 2-week ceasefire agreed to, confirmed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who said unambiguously that the ceasefire extended not only to Lebanon, but to everywhere. Those were his words. And despite that fact, the Israeli entity carried out this and many other acts of heinous violence. So, Laith, thank you for joining me today. There's quite a history to this mosque, and I thought maybe you could take a moment and talk to us about the imam who was killed on that day, the other people who died, and also there's a resistance figure up on the wall featured there. Why don't you tell us about this mosque?
Yeah, so this is Al-Zahra religious complex. It was targeted and destroyed during the 2006 war, the 33-day war at that time, and was rebuilt in 2011. The imam of this mosque was Ayatollah Nabulsi. Is one of the important jurists in Shia Islam in Lebanon, and his son Sadiq Nabulsi was the imam after him in this mosque. Their brother is Sheikh Afif, Muhammad Afif al-Nabulsi, which was the head of the media bureau of Hezbollah and the spokesperson for Hezbollah after the assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah during the 66-day war. He was also assassinated during the war. As you were saying, they attacked this on Wednesday during the rampage. Sheikh Sadiq was giving a sermon to a group of women. Beside us here, there's all the public school and part of the University of Lebanon, the scientific studies department, that were turned into a refuge for the internally displaced. That's why the women were here taking showers in the public bathrooms in this complex, and also taking religious lessons, seminar from Sheikh Nabulsi. So we know that 11 people were martyred, most of them the women plus the imam, and there's at least 2 more bodies of martyrs that are under the rubble. They're looking for them right now, and you know, this is the story across the country since Wednesday. They are still looking for people under the rubble in many places.
And the last report I saw this morning was that the death toll had risen. Initially, I think they estimated 250. It was up to 357 this morning. So even at 250, it was the largest one-day death toll since the Civil War. The carnage just continues. It mounts. While we were out here today, there were numerous explosions, or what sounded like explosions. I counted at least 4 while we were attending the mass funeral of 13 state security officials who were killed in Nabatea, which is north of the Litani River, but in an area that has now been evacuated by the Israeli aggressor. And on our way there, we had an interesting experience, a rather telling cell phone experience. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Yeah, my Canadian cell phone, I take it with me all the time when we go to the south. So if the Zionists notice, they will see that's a Canadian number. Maybe they'll choose to not to kill us. But this time we were like 30 somewhat kilometers away from the border, and my phone pinged saying welcome to Israel. So clearly there was a drone flying on top of us that was intercepting all cell broadcasts and redirecting them to the Israeli network. Therefore, they can listen to our conversations in the car, and that's what they were doing basically, listening to us, tracking, looking at who's inside the car. So maybe you also had your phone with you. I don't know if it pinged or not, but they most probably already knew that you were in the car with us. Mm-hmm. We were joking yesterday, if your white status, although you're Greek, you know, and you were accepted as Greeks only at the end to whiteness. But if your white status would protect us more, I mean, you know, we're making jokes, but right. These are serious things, and the only thing that we can do is laugh about it sometimes.
Speaking for myself, I'm more comfortable with the color of olive oil than whiteness, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the East Mediterranean was never what you would call, you know, what this manufactured whiteness that came out of the experience of colonialism in North America. The Greeks specifically were one of the last to be accepted into this imaginary identity.
Yes, and I've said many times to my fellow Greeks, not all of them share my view, many of them do, that we have much more in common with the peoples of this country, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, than we have with the colonizers from the north of Europe. And that's been borne out by our historical experience. We have been ourselves colonized and occupied by them right up until the current time. We don't have a sovereign government. Our government is run from Brussels and Washington, unfortunately. Nonetheless, we're going to continue our coverage here in South Lebanon. We have some more reporting to do. I want to really express my appreciation to these wonderful journalists from Free Palestine TV, Laith Marouf and Hadi Hotait. You know what I do when I come down here? I put myself at risk for a few days. These comrades are doing it constantly, day after day after day, and that's why it's so important that we pay careful attention to what Free Palestine TV has courageously been putting out there, keeping us informed about the carnage being inflicted upon the indigenous peoples of this region. Thank you for your fine work.